week we spoke about the Meshech HaDeiros, the continuation of the Deiros as they come down, according to the structure of Adam Rishon. And we are the Ikvayim, the sole, the bottom of the foot. As the Tzaddikim have already predicted, it's a matzav of Ikvasad and Mashiach. Hestapanim. We'll talk about it more elaborately, perhaps next week, as we approach Purim. But the Gemara speaks about the period of the Nes of Purim as one of Hester Panim. The Rabbi Shalom hides his face. It's the end of the Galus. This Hester Panim of the Achris of the Galus comes in two phases. The Galus after the Bayis Rishon, prior to the building of the Beis HaMikdash, the second Beis HaMikdash, and today's Galus, at the end of our Galus, prior to the building of B'Meheira B'Yameinu, the Bayis HaShlishi. The structure is the same. So, it's Hester Panim. The Rabbi Shalom hides his face. We don't see, and more than that, like the Baal Shem Tov said, it's Hester B'Toich Hester. The concealment is also concealed. The Gra, the Vilna Gaon, told his Talmidim that the entire history, the events of the current millennium, I mean the Yiddish millennium, the 6,000s, we're now in the middle of the 6,000s. We're in the year 5,760. So the events of the current millennium are all in the Seder Dvarim. In the 10 Sedras of the Seder Dvarim, each Sedra is a century. You want to know the events of the first century? Look in the Seder Dvarim. You want to know the events of the second century? Look in Verse Chanan, and so on and so forth. The Gra lived in the years of Tak, Kuf, which is the 6th century. So the Talmidei HaGra wrote that in their Sfarim. They have this story in their Sfarim, that Reb Chaim Volozhiner, the great Talmud of the Gra, asked the Gra, if now is the 6th century, so we are in the Seder Kiseitze. So, where are you, Rabbi, in the Seder Kiseitze? You certainly find yourself there. So it says, yes, I am. It says, Even Shleima Tihiyelach. Even Shleima is Neitreiken Eliyahu ben Shleima. That's me. The Vilna Gaon. Rabbi Eliyahu, the Gra Vilna. So the Reb Chaim Volozhiner asked his Rabbi, and where am I? So the Rabbi answered, but Reb Chaim Volozhiner, when he gave over this account to his Talmidim, did not reveal where Reb Chaim Volozhiner is in the Sedra. I suppose he didn't want to do it because of an evil. In other words, every Sedra of the Dvarim is a century. Actually, there are 11 Sedras in Dvarim. But the Gra said, Nitzav Vayelech is one Sedra. in fact, you see it because at the end of there's a Messiah at the end of each Sadra. You have it now with Chamashim. It's part of the Messiah. It's an excerpt of the Messiah, telling you how many psukim there is in each Sadra, and with the Gematria. So, in the Tzavim Vayelech, he combines both. And with this is one of the terutzim to a kasha. In the Zayar it says that there are 53 Sedras. Gan, which is the Gan Eden. If we count, there are 54. Nitzav Vayelech is one Sedra. That's the answer. That's one of the answers. So Kumtais, that we who are now in the middle of 5,760, the eighth, so we should find ourselves in the Tzavim Vayelech. If somebody would learn with Iyun the Sedras of the Tzavim Vayelech, he's going to find the events of this entire century. We're over the the top of the mountain. It's already 60 years in the century. So there is a history and a prediction. The history we could find in the Seder Mitzvah Vayelech. And the prediction is a very delightful one. When I was a boy, younger than you, I went to the Yeshiva Toyer V'das on 206 Wolfson Street in Williamsburg. At that time, it was approaching the turn of the century. It was the end of Tat Tzadik Tes. We were approaching Tafshin, and there was a smell of gunpowder in the air. Germany has invaded Austria and Czechoslovakia. It was, and then Chamberlain of England went with a policy of appeasement. You're going to be a good boy from now on, said Hitler, but be a good boy, that's all. And then Germany started threatening that they're going to invade Poland. And England and France said that if Germany is going to invade Poland, they're going to war. Too much. Because you see that his hunger cannot be satisfied. So we were boys, and there was one boy in our class who was rich enough and fortunate enough to have a radio. So by recess, we were interested in the stories that we were going to hear. So instead of going down to play ball at recess, we remained in the room. The Rabbi left, and this boy got up front and very proudly gave a report of the events of the day and what's happening. And he told us what he heard on the radio, that if Germany is going to invade Poland, so England, the British Empire, as it was then called, and France are going to go to war, and the English, they have the Royal Air Force, which is invincible, and the French have the Maginot Line. You can't penetrate that, and they have such mighty armies, and just in the question of a few days, they're going to reduce all of Germany to mincemeat, to gehackte Fleisch. So that's how the boys told the story. And then Rosh Hashanah came, and my father, Olav Shalom, was about Tefillah for Shacharis, and I stood by his side to help him sing his nigunim. And I noticed that everybody is crying more than what I saw in the other Rosh Hashanah. After davening, I asked my father, why were they all crying? So he said, all these people, they have relatives, fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, cousins in Poland, and Germany is invading Poland now, and who knows what's going to happen with them. So I said, what are you worried? In a few days, Germany will be gehacked to flesh. What are you worried? It didn't take a few days. It took 5 years. And in these 5 years, Hitler, he annihilated 1/3 of Klal Yisrael. Like it says in the Pasuk, the Navi talked about it already. And that started in Tafshin, at the turn of the century. That's just when the war started. So I suppose we could find all this in the Tzavim Vayelech. The history of the war we should find in the Tzavim Vayelech. So we're going to let our fingers do the working and go through the century. And Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Yidden that I know a time is going to come when you're going to do Aveirus and you're going to be driven out of Eretz Yisrael. As I told you the other weeks, the Goyim didn't have the nerve to write Nevuah in their New Testament or in the Quran, the Christians or the Mohammedans. How did they know what's going to happen? Moshe Rabbeinu knew that whatever he says will be true, and he wrote it down, and we have it. Veiters Brisi, V'chera api by bayim hahu, V'azaftim. The Rebbe says, I'm going to abandon the Yidden. V'starti panei mehem, I'm going to hide my face. V'hayalachel, will be destroyed. U'mutza'u reis rabbis v'tzareis, and he will have so many reis, rabbis and tzareis. And you think he'll do tshuva? V'yama b'yayim hu halai al ki ein alakai b'kirbi mutza'uni reis ha'ela. And v'yanoichi haster aser panei b'yayim hahu. I'm going to hide my face in that day. So I want you to know that I predicted that. So write it down. Let this shir of Hazinu, which talks about what's happening, be a testimony, B'nai Yisrael, that they should know that I told them it's going to happen. I told you so. So, tzareis, rabbis, tzareis, very many tzareis, tribulations, what Klal Yisrael went through. And Rabbi Shlomo has it predicted here in the Seder Vayelech, which is the story of our current century. But that's one half of it. The other half we find in Nitzavim, which is also in our century. And since it's in Nitzavim, it has to happen in our century. However, today? Maybe tomorrow. Nobody knows when. Tafshin Samach is a good year for that. But it can happen any time. So it says, "V'haya ki yavayu alecha ka'advaram ha'ela ha'bracha v'ha'klala asher nasati lefanecha v'hashivayis ha'ela v'avecha b'chal ha'gayim." You're going to do tshuva, return to your heart, return to your roots among all the gayim asher hidichacha Hashem alekecha shema, where the Rabbi Shalom dispersed you there in the Galus. You're going to go to Galus and you're going to do tshuva. And this is right what's happening now. Anybody of you who are familiar with the current events of the Jewish world, Yidden are doing tshuva. When Mashiach will come, all the Yidden will do tshuva. Right now, we already have a drizzle of tshuva. Thousands upon thousands of Yidden are doing tshuva in America, coming back to the roots, especially in Eretz Yisrael, much more so. You read about it, and you see it on the posters, that Yid with the Bon Payas, whatever his name is, Emunah, and others like that. There's this fellow, Zohar, who was the most, who was an actor in Eretz Yisrael, and he was the darling of all the youth of Eretz Yisrael. He was on television, and he was the star of all the actors, and all of a sudden he did tshuva, and he's using his talents now to be Marza Yidin l'tshuva, and many like that. Professor Brandner, but kama like that. So the Rabbi says, "V'shavta de Hashem Elokecha." You're going to return to the Rabbi Shalom. V'shamata b'kaylei. V'shav Hashem Elokecha shvuscha. The Rabbi Shalom will return your galus. The Rachmech will have Rachmanas on you. V'shav. V'kibatzchem b'kol ha'amim. He's going to gather you from all the nations. Asher fitzcha Hashem Elokecha shama. Where the Rabbi Shalom scattered you there. If you're going to be astray at the end of the heavens, it doesn't say b'ktzei ha'aretz, it says b'ktzei hashamayim. And the Sasana says that wherever a Yid goes, a little streak of Shemayim goes along with him. He can't be lost. Mishem yikapetzcha Hashem Elokecha, Mishem yikachecha. The Rebbe shall gather you and take you from there. You're going to return to Eretz Yisrael. More than even during the Beis HaMikdash, the first Beis HaMikdash. And Yidden are going to do tshuva. Umal Hashem Elokecha Slavavecha v'Slavav Zarecha. The Rebbe will mala your heart like you take off the orla of your heart. Liyahavas Hashem Elokecha. You're going to love the Rabbi Shalom. V'chalavavecha v'chal nafshecha l'man chayecha. This is the story of the century of the Tafshin. We have the tragedy of Tafshin and the Nechama and the Aftacha of the Tafshin in the Seder of Nitzavim, which is the Seder of this century. Now we have two kashas here. One kasha is, it's not chronological, because the tzaris are in the second half of the Seder, Vayelech, and the Nechama is in the first half, in Nitzavim. It should have been the other way around. Another kasha is, if it's one Seder, why is it divided into two Seders, into Nitzavim and Vayelech? And sometimes we lane it separately. Nitzavim before Rosh Hashanah, Vayelech after Rosh Hashanah. So these two kashas are answered with one teretz. The Gemara says, "Achei advarim ha'eileh, gidal hamelech Achashverosh es Haman." After this what happened, after Vashti was deposed and Esther came in as queen, then Achashverosh made big Haman. So the Gemara says, by Yidin, the Rabbi Shalom makes the refuah before the market. First is the refuah. First Esther comes in as queen. And then comes Haman. The refuah comes before the market. What's pshat in that? Now supposing you see, we shouldn't see this. Supposing it happens in the street that one man is running after another man with a knife, and he catches him and stabs him. And then he sees that he's in trouble. He calls an ambulance. This man is a Ratzeach. There's no question about it. Supposing you see a man lying on a bed, and then there's a man with a mask on and surgical gown and gloves and instruments and gauze and gut for stitching, whatever, and then he takes a knife and starts cutting. This man isn't a Oitzayach. He's a doctor. He's a surgeon. How do you know? Because he prepared the refuah before the makkah. He has the needles and the stitching material, the septics, and whatever is necessary in the surgery, in the surgical procedure. It's all prepared. If he prepares the refuah before the makkah, he's a doctor. So even the makkah is a refuah. The cutting is also part of the refuah. By the Rabbi Shalom, when it deals with Goyim, the makkah comes first and then the refuah. By Yidin it's verkehrt. The refuah comes before the makkah. The Gezeira of Haman was also a Yeshua for Yidin, that they should do tshuva, to get the bad out of them, like the surgeon cuts out the bad halakim out of the person. So therefore, the Yeshua is first in the Tzavim, and the Makkah is later in Vayelech. The refuah is before the Makkah. Why are they two sedras? Because a sedra is, the taich of the word seder is program. It's a program. Every sedra is a program. Every sedra tells you what's happening. You find the current events in the sedra. You find everything that's happening in the sedra. And every year, when we read last year's sedra, we find new things in the sedra. And Yidden who learn Torah Lishma can see in the sedra what's happening. The Maggid of Mezrich, in his Besmedrish, there was a vacancy. They needed a Baal Torah. So somebody told the Maggid that Rab Shneur Zalman, who later became the Baal Tanya, he knows how to learn. So the Maggid calls him in, and he tells him, Zalman, do you know what shaykhis the Sedra has to the events of the week, that you can see the events of the week in the Sedra? So he says, yes, Rabbi, I know. So he tells him, the Sedra is divided in 7 chalakim for the Shiva Olam. The first is for Sunday, the second is for Monday, and so on. Do you know why? Can you really trace the happening of every day of the week in its appropriate portion in the Sedra? Can you find Sunday's occurrences in Rishon? Can you find Monday's occurrences in Sheni? Can you find Friday's occurrences in Shishi? So the Baal Tanya says, yes, Rabbi, I can find it. I can see it in the Sedra. So he says, when you call somebody up for an aliyah, do you know and do you understand why this specific person, B'ashgacha Pchatas Min HaShamayim, has been called to this specific aliyah? What shaykhs it has with this neshama? So he says, yes, Rabbi, I understand that also. So the Maggid tells him, so you're going to be my Baal Korah. The Sedra has a shaykhs with the week. The Sedra, if we teach it in English, Sedra means a program. It's the program of the week, a Seder of the week. When Mashiach will come, there'll be a different mitzias in the world, a new order, a new world order, a new program. Life wouldn't be in any way the way it's now. The world wouldn't be in any way the way it's now. It'll be a utopia. It'll be such a wonderful world. It'll be the Sruach Hatuma Ava Min Ha'aretz. It'll be Bila HaMavis L'Netzach, and all the big Haftachas that the Nevi'im told, that the Torah and the Nevi'im tell us about the Moshe Mashiach. Life wouldn't be the way it's now. It'll be like Adam Rishon before the Chet in Gan Eden. It's true that Nitzavim and Vayelech are both in one century, but it's two sedras. It can't be in one sedra. The Galus and the Yeshua can't be in one sedra. Right now, we are experiencing the Anoichi Haster Astam Espanei Mehem. And the Gemara Darshans, and the Gemara Nechulim, Estam and Atayra Menayin. Where is Estam Rumaz in the Torah? So the Gemara says, the Anoichi Haster Aster Espanei. Aster, the Oisius Esther. The story of Esther is in the Torah. Here, in the Techacha. Haster Aster Espanei. There was such a big Hester Panim, such a big scare. Haman is going to annihilate all the Yidden, and all the Shevav Yeschum Ameya Medin, B'chal Medinas HaMelech HaRashverish. Chas v'shalom, it seems that there's no hope for Yidden. They sinned. They worshipped Avodah Zarah by the Tzarim of Nebuchadnezzar. They partook of the party of Achashverosh. They enjoyed the party. They ate and they drank there. A very big chet. Yidden fell to a very low ebb, to Achmanis and the Gzeira. This is Haster Aster. And Rabbi Shloim is hiding. And you don't even see that he's hiding. This is what we're living for now. Haster Aster. That's why the overwhelming majority of Klal Yisrael doesn't even know how to say Shema Yisrael. It's Haster Aster. That's why Yidden and Eretz Yisrael are in such a big sakana now. That's why anti-Semitism all over the world is so rampant. In America also. Hashem Yisrael should help. People don't realize that Hitler was a very insignificant person, and he ran for office, and he was elected in Austria and Germany. Today the same thing is happening over again. This guy, what's his name, Haider, Haider, in Austria, a real Nazi, became one of the big shishkas in the government now. In the Austrian government, they know their history. They know that Hitler came from Austria. And that's the same thing. Here in America, there's this fellow Buchanan running for president. He's a certified anti-Semit. He doesn't hide it. We don't know what the dangers are today. Baruch Hashem, ignorance is bliss. You don't read the papers. Ashkechem v'tayvela. But we're in a big sakana. It's Hester Panim. Haman is becoming powerful. It's Renei Haster Aster. Well, we have to do tshuva. This is a makkah which is a refuah. The Rebbe wants us to do tshuva. The Rebbe wants to arouse us, to stir us up. And the Rebbe should help him. We should be zoiche to the nechamas of this century, the nechamas that the Rebbe promised us, that v'shav Hashem alekecha shvuscha v'rachamecha v'shav b'kebetcha v'kala'ana ma'ashafitzcha alecha shama v'riach Hashem alekecha l'eretz hashiyosha v'secha v'lishta v'tivecha v'herbecha ma'yavisecha. I didn't say.